All right, nothing like a little bit of rock and roll to wake you up in the morning. By the way, speaking of rock and roll, the lead guitarist for the band Live, they were a former Artist of the Year, according to Rolling Stone, and they've sold a gazillion albums. They're going to be joining us in the 11 a.m. hour. Mick Akers going to be joining us next hour. Is it true that there is a strong possibility that the Oakland A's are going to be moving to Vegas? We'll get to all those stories coming up here in just a little bit, but we're talking about discrimination, and now we're talking about what the Supreme Court is dealing with, and that is it legal? Should it not be illegal to fire somebody based on sexual orientation? Now, the U.S. Supreme Court is very closely divided, and a lot of people are saying it's going to be coming down to Gorsuch whether this is going to pass or not. My personal opinion on this is it should be illegal. If you want to fire somebody because you think they're dressing inappropriately, if you want to fire somebody because you think their attitude is inappropriate or they're not doing the job properly, go ahead, fire them. If you're going to fire somebody because you don't like their attitude, go ahead and do it. But to look somebody in the face and to fire somebody in the workplace and say, we're going to have to let you go because we found out you are gay and you're dating a man or a woman is absolutely absurd, hateful, make no mistake about it. And it's not the country that I want to live in. I don't care what your sexual orientation is. I'm going to live my life the way I want to live it. Okay? And whether you're gay or straight has no bearing on what I do in my life. Do whatever you want. I don't care so as long as you don't break the law. How can somebody, and I'm talking to anybody out there that disagrees with me, anybody, how can you run a business and say you're okay with looking at an employee after you hired them and saying, I'm going to fire you? Oh, really? Why are you firing me? I'm firing you because you're gay.
I think the only thing that would make sense here is if a homosexual person were making passes or advances.
That's different. That's sexual harassment.
Exactly. On a couple of employees, and they felt uncomfortable about it.
Same thing straight.
And they reached out to the employer. That's the only time this would make sense. Otherwise, I completely agree with you. It literally has absolutely no relevance to the position.
Straight people do that all the time. It's got nothing to do with being gay.
What if in a specific job, like a Christian-oriented job or a clergy-oriented job, something along those lines, where homosexuality is actually looked down upon. But then in that case, why hire them in the first place?
Well, let me ask you a question then. What if somebody owns a business and they're a member of the KKK and they just look down upon people, African Americans and Jews, and they've hired a few people that are African American, and they just fire them based on color or their religion? You can't do that. There are laws that specifically state right now that you can't fire someone based on the color of their skin. You can't do it. So why shouldn't there be a law that says you can't fire somebody based on their sexual orientation? I think this is completely ridiculous. It's hateful, and we'll take your phone calls on it. We'll see what you think out there. The number to call, 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call is 257-5396. We will start off with Brian. Brian, what's going on?
Gentlemen, good morning. Well,
good morning.
This case is a little bit different than is being talked about here. This is about somebody who was hired as a funeral director, somebody to greet families in one of the worst things that they're going through in their lives, the death of a family member, a loved one. And when this person was hired, a man, he signed a code that he would dress a certain way and behave in a certain way as to be very conscious of, the frail condition of the families that are going to be coming into their business and to do the best thing they could. Well, 7 years after this happened, he suddenly decided he was a woman. And so now he wants to be dressed in a dress with makeup and high-heel shoes and stuff. And never mind the contract that he signed. In my opinion, I don't think this is the kind of person that's going to do the business owner's best job dealing with these families. And so I think it's up to that person who is running this business in this particular case where this person has signed a contract and then changed from a man into a woman. And I've had to deal with one person just like this at a government facility when I had to buy permits to do some.
Okay, Brian, let me interject here real quickly of what you're saying. Okay. We're talking about one's appearance. Okay. Now, you don't like their appearance. It would be one thing if they were half naked. It would be one thing if they were supposed to wear, say, pants and they wore jeans.
Or if they decided to be flamboyantly over the top to the families of these.
Okay. But I don't think
a guy with arms like a sailor with
so what?
makeup on and a day-old beard, wearing earrings, and they're having their hair made up and trying to walk in high.
Well, here's where we
shoes.
disagree. Here's where we
not the person you want grieving families.
in your
coming
personal
in
opinion,
funeral home. Sorry.
in your personal opinion, because you don't agree with the lifestyle that they live and you don't agree with this gentleman.
Not at all. I'm a live and let live kind of guy.
So
but
what do you care what? So what do you care what their hair looks like?
Fighting with the businessman.
So let me ask you a question. If it's a woman with her hair like that wearing earrings, you wouldn't have a problem with that, right? If
what
it was
are you talking about? No.
Okay, so because this person,
she's a woman. She's not a man dressing up like a woman.
So what do you care?
Right?
What
There's
is
a big difference?
What do you care? What's between their legs? What do you care? Why do you care
Brian,
so much?
No, I would have an issue with this. A funeral home is a very, very formal place. Across the board, it has been for a long, long time. I would not want, say I had a family member die, I would not want the person greeting the guests and the family to have a beard and wear spotty makeup and not dress the part.
Here's the problem that you guys are talking about right now. Let me just hold on a second.
It all breaks down to the contract. Was it a contract through perpetuity? How long was it?
We're talking about something completely different. We're talking about appearance versus sexuality. In the Supreme Court, they are talking about this right now, and they are trying to decide, can you fire somebody if you are gay, Brian? You are talking about appearance. Are you okay with...
No, that is not what we're talking about.
Yes, it is what we're talking about. Read it.
Eloquently laid out what this is all about. This case was thrown out of federal court in 2016. What this is the transgender community trying to push their agenda again on everybody that doesn't agree with them.
Are you okay? I'm going to ask you a very specific question. Okay, we can get into the weeds, but it comes down to this: are you okay with an employer firing somebody because of their sexual preference? It's a yes or no question. You're gay. I don't want you here. Are you okay with that, Brian?
In this particular case, yes.
All right. I appreciate the call, Brian. I completely disagree with you, but I appreciate the call. 257-5396 is the number to call. Again, 702-257-5396.
Yeah, but no, just for being homosexual, of course, I'm not okay with that. But for additional things, if there are contract caveats, if there are specific requirements for the job, if there are expectations for the job, and those expectations aren't being met, I am okay with that.
Then have a policy.
But again, that doesn't come down to homosexuality.
Talking about appearance, have a policy then. If you have to wear pants, man or woman, wear pants. If you have to wear a collared shirt, man or woman, have a uniform. That would solve this whole thing. Make no mistake about it. This isn't just about appearance. This is about sexuality. It is not okay, in my opinion, to fire somebody because they are gay. That is not okay. And the poster child for this...
You're saying as the only reason.
This is part of what they're talking about.
The only reason you're saying it's not okay, and I completely agree with this, it is not okay to fire somebody specifically because they are homosexual, and that's it.
And if you allow this...
Not because of the way they dress, not because of sexual advances, not because of the fact that there's specific performance ordinances in their contract that they're not living up to. You're just saying only because they are dating or in a relationship or have intimacy
and the reason
with
why
the same sex
JD,
by choice.
The reason why I'm bringing this up is because when you have this being decided in the Supreme Court, it paves the way and it will allow people to fire others based on their sexual orientation, not just appearance. This is a very slippery slope and a dangerous path, and it is not fair. Meanwhile, as we know, Donald Trump passed something into law not allowing certain transgenders from serving in the military. We have a vice president. His wife works at a school where they not only do not allow homosexuals, children to go to school there that are homosexuals, they don't allow adults to work there if they are homosexuals. And it is a disgrace. 257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Kevin. Kevin, what's up?
What's up, Kevin?
Hey, guys. Yeah, I don't know, I saw this coming a long time ago. I mean, like Hobby Lobby, the first winning with the Hobby Lobby. This is the clear case of just, Christians packing the courts and trying to get their agenda through. And it's pure and unadulterated hate, okay? You guys are trying to parse hairs with, does he show up as a man or a woman? Those things, like you said, JD, the They could have that in the contract as a stipulation. Hey, if you identify as a man, you get the job as a man, you show up as a man, you don't come in here with makeup. Those things are all fine and dandy. This is strictly just about hate and trying to stop the LGBTQ community, and or just because you don't identify or you can't relate to these people,
right,
or people of this origin, that you want to completely shut them down. They're not going anywhere. They've been here since the beginning of time. I have family members that are, and everything, and their business is their business. But when you start letting employers start to dictate what you have to be or what you have to identify, next thing you know, you're going to say, I can't, like you say, show up to work bald. I can't be black.
Exactly.
You're going back. America is going backwards.
Wesley, that's my point. Wesley, that's Kevin, that is exactly my point. You know, when you start doing this, then what's next? If you don't have hair or if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, I mean, we have a vice president, Kevin, that is the poster child for exactly what I'm talking about. You know, it's a joke. Now, if you don't agree with that lifestyle, I have no problem with that. I disagree with you, but I don't have a problem with your opinion. It's when you push it on others. It is why we talk about the separation.
It's a slippery slope both ways.
It is why we talk about the separation between church and state.
It's not even a slippery slope. You have to understand that people have to live. If you set up a business on my street and I pay taxes on that street, then you need to conform to the rules of the laws that I set up. I don't want you to be able to make a cake. You make a cake, but if I'm not a Christian, you can't make a cake for me. That's racism. That's bigotry. That's hate.
It's exactly.
Okay?
You're right.
Because he's gay. And you want my tax dollars to keep your streets clean, to keep the police in your area, to come send the fire department to you. So you need to conform to the rules that every other employer has to come to.
Kevin, you're absolutely Kevin.
Just trying to relight the path, and then it's just I'm telling you, we're going backwards, guys.
No, you're right, Kevin. Make no mistake about it. You use the correct term there. It's bigotry. You're looking at someone that doesn't believe in what you believe in. You're looking at someone that maybe doesn't have the same sexual preference that you have. So let's fire him or her. It is absolutely absurd, and it is hateful. Good call, Kevin. I agree with you 100%. 257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Wesley. Wesley, what's up?
What's up, Wesley?
Yeah, man, I completely disagree with you because your logic makes no sense in the long run. Like you said, this does have drastic effects. And what you're doing is you're inhibiting the free speech of employers. If my establishment represents a certain brand and the image which an employee referring to that image, then I am within all rights to fire that employee. It has nothing to do with
it. But the thing is, it comes down to you. It comes down to you making that very clear.
Okay, you both can't talk at the same time. Let's let one person talk. Let JD go.
Yeah,
hang on.
I totally agree with you. It comes down to you making that very clear in the employee contract or in the employee agreement before they actually start working for you.
So, Wesley, you're an extremely religious person. Is that a fair thing to say?
I'm a religious person. I wouldn't say I'm a cult follower or nothing. But
okay, no, I didn't ask you that. I didn't say that. Okay, so you're a religious man.
Said extreme. So
okay.
what do you mean by extreme?
Well,
maybe you're putting some kind of context behind that word.
Okay, well, maybe I shouldn't say.
Word.
Okay, first of all, I'm not a bigot, Wesley, so don't be a smartass. We're going to have a conversation.
You're a sycophant.
Excuse me? You want to call me names now, or do you want to have a legitimate conversation? Because I'm willing to have that conversation with you. But guess what? Jesus Christ taught you, or should have taught you, not to judge others. Don't name call others. So, if you are a religious person, extreme or not, you just committed a sin. Okay, so would you like to have? No, excuse me. Would you? Don't say no to me. Don't say. Would you like to have a conversation or not? Would you like? Excuse me, sir. Would you? No. You don't tell me what we talk about. I'm telling you now. I'm going to ask you a question. That's what Jesus Christ taught me to do. No. Okay. Well, Jesus Christ told me to tell you. Would you like to have a serious conversation or not? Yes or no?
How can I take you serious?
Answer it yes or no. Would you like to have a serious conversation?
Have a cognitive question.
All right, we're hanging up on you because Jesus Christ told me you're a complete moron. 257-5396 is the number to call. Jesus told me you have a low IQ. 257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Frank. Frank, what's up? I tried to give him a chance. He just didn't want to have a conversation.
Sycophant wasn't an insult. It was actually an adjective.
Yeah. Jesus told me he should repent. 257-5396.
That was great. Anyway.
Go ahead, Frank.
You took me out of my hangover.
Sorry about that.
Well, don't be. In one word, that's a clue to the answer to this question, Brian. What is government in one word?
Control.
Good guess. And I'm surprised you didn't know. No, government is force.
Well, yeah, to an
Period.
extent. I agree.
Government
Yeah.
is force. Now, that's the foundation of this call. I'm calling your comment regarding Mike Pence.
Yeah.
I got the feeling that you feel that he will impose his view. If he comes to power, he will impose his point of views.
Yep, and he's done everything he could to try to get rid of marriage between a man and a man or a woman and a woman. He's done everything in his power to be against it.
Okay, I want and it's a special chord because I was forced to testify under threat, not even beyond duress, in the Army of Article 15, court-martial and jail time if I didn't testify.
Right.
I witnessed a gay act, and I wanted out of my room, so I moved to another, and they found out, and I said, look, I'm a libertarian. I left after Read My Lips, no new taxes. I said, boy, this two-party system, we're getting screwed bad. And so I became
So, Frank, what do you think about this U.S. Supreme Court thing? Do you agree or disagree? Do you think that an employer should be allowed to fire somebody and look them in the eye? You know what? You live a different sexual lifestyle than me and a sexual preference. Since you're gay, you're fired. Get out of here. Are you okay with living in a country?
It's not that simple, bro. It depends. There's dress codes. There's a lot of things.
Well, I'm not talking about dress codes. I'm strictly.
You're trying to isolate, and it's not that simple.
Well,
That's why the founding fathers.
But I'm asking you a simple question, Frank. You're right. There are different variations, but I'm asking you an extreme
there's not
case.
Just variation. In some cases, you have to protect the employer. Because keep in mind that these people have jobs because they're working somewhere for someone. Somebody has started a business that they want run a specific way to produce revenue, and these people are working for them.
Thank you.
And you have to think about the employer.
Brian, you can't isolate it like that.
No, I
That's
think
all
I can. I think I can, Frank, and here's why. And I disagree with you, but
the Army was going to throw me in jail if I didn't testify, and I'm a libertarian. I said I don't care what somebody does in their bedroom. That's all I had to say.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
I appreciate that, but here's why I disagree with you. Okay, and here's why I say there are different variations, which I agree with. Okay, if you're dressing a certain way, there has to be a dress code. If you're speaking a certain way that could be construed as inappropriate, there has to be rules and regulations for that. However, to finish my point, you should never be able to fire somebody based on their sexuality.
Should you be required to hire someone based on their sexuality?
Absolutely not. I would never require hiring someone. It should be required based on you do the job.
So you shouldn't have to, because we had Kevin call in and say, "Oh, this will be a slippery slope towards being, it's okay to be racist. It's okay not to have someone bald." If you're on a TV show or if you're a hair model, are you going to be bald in a hair model? Absolutely not. That's not going to take place.
That's a different circumstance.
But the same thing can be applied here. Are you going to be required to interview 40% of homosexuals for your
No, I'm not talking about
as
that.
an employer? Well,
no.
but that's the slippery slope on the other side of thing.
No, there's no laws that require that.
But I'm saying that's where things could go.
I disagree.
If this happens.
I disagree.
I
disagree.
But based on what?
We've never had
Why would it not go in that direction?
Because
where you're required to interview X amount of people that are LGBTQT.
Because we're not talking about that. We're not talking about you have to hire somebody that's gay. We're not talking about that. We're talking about you can't fire somebody that's gay. We're not talking about hiring.
Even if the fact that they are homosexual is actually hurting your brand.
If the fact that somebody is homosexual and you think it could hurt your brand, then why would you hire that person in the first place?
Then why even interview them, correct?
Then why would you hire that?
Why look at their application?
We're not
and
talking.
And that's where I'm getting here.
We're not talking about hiring, though, JD. I hear what you're saying. We're talking about can you fire somebody? Listen, if you hired somebody that is bad for your brand and you learn that they are a homosexual, well, guess what? You probably shouldn't have hired them to begin with, number one. And number two, my point being, you shouldn't be allowed to look at somebody and say, I'm going to let you go because you're gay. And by the way, what kind of business are you running that you have somebody in your business that happens to be gay and you think it's horrible for your business? business. What kind of business are you running where that would take part in? I don't know. Let's take some more phone calls. 257-5396 is the number to call. Again, 702-257-5396. We're talking about this U.S. Supreme Court divided on this LGBT unemployment protection, and it looks like it's going to go down to Gorsuch here. Should you be allowed to fire somebody at a place of business because of their sexuality? 257-5396. Let's go to Marge. Marge, what's going on?
What's up, Marge?
I think that this kind of rides the coattails of being fired because you're a man or a woman, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that JD's right. You shouldn't have hired the person to begin with if that's what you're suspecting the person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, very dumb of whoever this employer is to come outright and say that.
Right.
They could find other reasons to terminate someone, but not to broadcast it that way. The thing that I think JD said is, as far as, like being a hair model, sure, if you're running an establishment that promotes one sex versus another, yes, I can see why, that would be a concern. But again, at the time of hire, you should have spotted that.
Right, it's your fault.
Yeah, and this one person that came out, I believe, as far as the court case, so they came out. But what did they really do to hurt the establishment? Probably nothing.
Probably nothing, right? And this is why, Marge, we have, and you know this, Marge, this is why we have the separation between church and state, because your religious beliefs should never take precedence to policy or changing policy. And sadly, we have a vice president in office. He lives his life around his religion. And look, that's fine. If he wants to do that, that's fine. But it should have no bearing on policy. Marge, it is always good to hear from you, Marge. And I really do appreciate the phone call.
Hey, thanks for the call, Marge.
So here's what I want to do. I want to take more calls on this issue, so please wait on hold. We have a few phone lines open. We're talking about the U.S. Supreme Court, which is divided on the LGBT employment protection. Should you be allowed to look at an employer and say, I'm firing you because you're gay? I'm firing you because I don't agree with your sexual lifestyle. What is the difference between this and firing somebody because of the color of their skin? We have laws on the books that are in place. You can't fire somebody based on race. You can't fire somebody based on gender. You're not allowed to do that. So how can you fire somebody based on sexual orientation? The number to call is 257-5396. Again, that number, 702-257-5396. We have a few phone lines open. We'll get to all your calls when we come back. You're listening to the Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro. 1,
2, 3. All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, rolling into hour number 2 on a hump day. Yeah, baby. A lot to get to coming up at the bottom of the hour. Are the Oakland A's moving to Vegas? Mick Ager has been covering this story from the RJ. He'll be joining us in a little bit. Hour number 3, we're going to have a lot of fun, too, talking about this NBA versus China story. It's heating up. And the band Live, the guitarist Chad Taylor, going to be joining us here in a little bit. They were the Artist of the Year, I believe, in 1995. So it'll be fun to talk to him. They got a show coming up at the Hard Rock this Friday. But we're talking about this U.S. Supreme Court case. They're divided with this LGBT employment protection. Should you be allowed to speak to one of your employers? And should you be allowed to look at them and say, you're fired because you're gay? Is there anybody on the planet that's okay with that? Really? I have a problem with you. I'll hear you out, but I have a problem with that. 257-5396 is the number to call. Why don't we start off, and we'll get to all your phone calls here. Let's start off with Robert. Robert, thanks for calling in. What do you think about all this?
Quite a crazy world we're living in today, isn't it?
Well, I don't disagree with you there, my friend.
Okay. How the mind reasons, and then we'll get to that question. You're either a liar or a non-liar. Can you tell me which one's evil?
I don't think if you're a liar, you're evil, Robert.
Oh, can you tell? Is it evil to lie?
If I lied to you and told you right now I have a $150,000 car when it's worth about $1,200, I wouldn't be evil. I would just be a liar. You understand there are different degrees of lies. Now, if you murder your wife and you lie about it and say you had nothing to do with it, you're evil. There are different levels of lies.
Okay, so you can have a good reason to lie. You can have a bad reason to lie. Is lying wrong or is it right?
It depends on the circumstance. I think for the most part, lying is wrong. For the most part. But I think in certain circumstances when you think you might hurt somebody.
It's all situational.
Yeah, exactly. It's completely situational. For example, if you have a son or a daughter and you know that their girlfriend or boyfriend is cheating on them, maybe you don't want to tell them, you don't want to hurt them. There are certain situations, where I think lying is more accepted than others. As a whole, is lying a good thing? No, probably not.
So adultery, you have to use that same method of interpretation for everything. So you believe everything, you can't say it is either evil or not evil. It's simply a subjective reasoning, not an objective reasoning.
Okay, Robert.
Simply, why did you lie?
Okay.
Well, you had a good reason.
Okay, well, Robert, I'm going to ask you a question now. What does this have to do with the Supreme Court?
Okay, well, my question is, you're either a liar or you're not.
What does that have to do with looking at someone and firing them if they're gay?
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you. If
Okay,
you let me.
I'm waiting.
Okay, and I'll tell you that. You're either a liar or you're not. You're either a thief or you're not.
Okay, all right.
You're either greedy
You're
or
either
you're not.
a good caller or you're not. Goodbye, Robert. 257-5396. You are not a good caller. 257-5396 is the number to call. You are either a good caller or you're not. Robert was a brutal caller. Let's go to Anthony. Anthony, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's going on? Anthony, go ahead, my friend. All right, another good caller. Anthony, let Anthony wait on hold. I think something's more, maybe he's at his job or something. I don't know. You are either a good caller or you're not. That is going to be that is what this segment is all about. 257-5396 is the number to call. If you forgot what we were talking about, thanks to our last caller talking about lying, we're talking about this U.S. Supreme Court divided on the LGBT employment protection. Should you be allowed to look at an employer and say, I'm firing you because you're gay? I say absolutely not. You should not be allowed to do that. Now, if you don't like the way they're dressing and there's a dress code, go ahead, fire them. If you don't like their attitude, go ahead, fire them. If they're not good at their job, go ahead and fire them. What type of world are we living in, folks, when you can fire somebody based on their sexuality because you don't agree that it's different than you? Is that, if you're a religious person, is that what Jesus taught you? Is that what you tell me? I don't know. I'm not an extremely religious person. Is that what Jesus would teach you to do? To treat people differently because they're not like you? That's what Mike Pence does. He lives his life based on that. Christ, lack of a better term. If he and his wife are in a room and then Pence leaves for a minute to go to the restroom and she's talking to another man, apparently that's a sin because she can't be a friend of another man. I mean, how ridiculous is that? I'm sorry, folks. I'm just going to say it right now. For the most part, I think religion is ridiculous. I really do. Now, if you're a religious person, I don't have a problem with you at all. Just don't push your beliefs on me. And when we're talking about the Supreme Court now, and we're talking about gay rights, and if you think it's okay to fire somebody because they're gay, it is ridiculous. That's not what religion should be all about. It should be about treating people as equals. 257-5396. Let's go to Eric. Eric, you're next on the Vegas Take. What do you think about this? All right, 257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to, I believe our next caller is Carl. Carl, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good.
Listen, you know where I stand politically, and I'm always with you, really. I think Pence and Trump are one of the biggest dangers this country has ever had. But I want to I never disagree with you, but I want to slightly disagree with you. A caller called about a funeral parlor, and the guy decided to dress as a woman. Well, you got to look at it this way. When people are mourning, they go into a funeral parlor. They're in a certain mental, psychological state where they're mourning, and if somebody walks out looking like a drag queen, I mean...
Carl, there's an easy fix. Carl, first of all, this isn't really about dress code. This is about sexuality, number one. And number two, then have a dress code.
But that's part of the case, though.
Whether you're a man... But hold on. I understand, but whether you're a man or a woman or both, make sure your employers have a dress code. How hard is that? You can't wear dresses. You can't wear ripped jeans. Wear pants and a collared shirt. Have a dress code for both men and women. Why is that so hard for people to understand? This is about sexuality. This isn't about dress code.
But then the law is going to have to dictate that.
Well, what do you mean the law doesn't have to dictate that?
Absolutely. If it comes through that, or if this is...
Have a dress code. It's up to the employer.
I understand that, but who's to say that the dress code won't fall under the umbrella of you can't fire somebody because they're homosexual?
You can fire somebody if they're not abiding by the dress code. If you're a man or a woman, transgender, whatever, you have to wear a certain type of clothing.
This law is going to have to be very, very specific, and you're going to see a lot of employers assuming this passes. That you're going to see a lot of employers over the next couple of years get really, really aggressive and comprehensive with their contracts. Because they're going to have to.
What I don't want,
and what I don't want to happen is to see or what I think actually might happen is an affirmative action type of movement for LGBTQT.
Yeah. Well, listen.
Which to me, this is kind of the start of that.
What I don't want to happen, JD, and I think you agree with me on this. What I don't want to live in a country where you can just fire somebody because you don't like someone's sexuality. That's wrong.
Right. But if there's other reasons besides that are reasonable,
then I'm willing to talk
necessary
about that
for your business. But the law has to dictate that. If it doesn't, there's going to be a lot of ambiguity and gray area, and you're going to see some issues.
Well, I'm willing to talk about that and discuss that.
And it could really hurt some employers.
I'm willing to talk about that and discuss that. But the Supreme Court, make no mistake about it, can you fire somebody because you are gay? 257
solely because they are gay.
257-5396, the number to call. Let's go to Tammy. Tammy, what's going on?
What's up, Tammy?
Hi. I believe in Jesus, and I agree with you. I feel it's totally wrong. You're not going to get anywhere. Everyone is different, and if they start doing that, then what's going to be the next step? However, I feel the LGBT community has a lot of power, so I don't understand. I'm a little confused. I'm neither left or right, but I'm just confused about teachers getting fired because they don't say the right pronoun, and that's why I'm saying that group has a lot of power. So how is the Supreme Court going to overrule that power when they have more power right now anyway, if that makes any sense?
No, you're making sense. I hear what you're saying. You know what my concerns are, Tammy. My concerns are, and listen, I don't care what your sexuality is. If you're not doing the job properly, if you're not wearing the right attire, if you have a poor attitude, fire their ass. I don't care what they are. They can be an alien. But what I have a problem with, and I think we agree on this one, is when someone could just look at somebody else and say, you know what, you're gay, you're fired. And, you know, I understand that that Nimrod that was running that bakery, he didn't want to bake a cake because they were gay. I mean, how difficult would it have been just to bake the cake and move on? Instead, he made a whole to-do about it. And look, those two that went in there, they made a whole to-do about it as well. I think they could have just gone to another bakery. But I just think this is my problem with people in general.
In this funeral parlor situation, he just decided out of the blue one day to totally change.
Right. Well, this is my problem.
How do you handle that? There was no. They didn't expect that. His employers didn't expect that.
This is my problem with people in general. They want to make other people's lives more difficult to fit their own agenda. We see it all the time in society, and I'm not even talking about sexuality or politics. I'm just talking about in general terms. We make it harder on other people.
But let's be honest. The employer's agenda is more important than the employee's agenda because they are hiring them to work for them. They own the business. They own the company. It's their rules.
Well, I don't care how important it is. Well, it should never be okay.
But you need to.
But it should never be okay. Let me finish the sentence. It should never be okay to fire somebody because they are gay. Period. It just should never be okay. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, this Matt Lauer story is wild. This is a crazy story. We're learning a little bit not just about how Matt Lauer might be a rapist, and by the way, he's speaking out against it, but we'll get an update on that. Not only that, but we're learning about his sexual habits. It might shock you a little bit. Speaking of homosexual acts, well, I'll explain what that means. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON, 720 AM, KDON, 720 AM, KDON.